Well, good evening, visitors. Welcome to the Australian War Memorial's Last Post ceremony. My name is Richard Cruz, and joining us today from the Royal Australian Navy is Lieutenant Cecilia Berryman. We warmly welcome the family of Private Gordon Frank Hazer, whose story will be told shortly. We welcome the veterans who have served, those that are still serving, and the families that support them. We acknowledge the members of RSL and Services Clubs Association, RSL Victoria and RSL Queensland, who are watching the broadcast of this ceremony across Australia. During this evening's ceremony, wreaths will be laid at the base of the Pool of Reflection by family and visitors. Could I ask you to please stand and join in singing the National Anthem? If you're able, please be seated. The Australian War Memorial was the vision of Charles Bean, Australia's First World War official historian. Bean landed with the Australian troops on Gallipoli and stayed with them at the front through to the end of the war. The idea of this national memorial and museum came to him at Pozières, France, in the depths of the bloody fighting of 1916. Bean's idea was that this would be a place where families and friends could mourn their loved ones buried in faraway places. It would also be a place that could help all Australians understand what these men and women had endured and what they had done for us. Bean's vision, to which we remain true, is best expressed as inscribed in the entrance to the memorial's galleries. Here is their spirit, in the heart of the land they loved, and here we guard the record which they themselves made. Tonight we'll read the story behind just one of those on the Roll of Honour, which lists the names of more than 102,000 men and women who have given their lives for us in war and operations for more than a century. But first we present a lament, Flowers of the Forest. Wreaths or floral tributes will now be laid at the base of the Pool of Reflection.
Today we remember and pay tribute to Private Gordon Frank Hazer, who died on active service during the Second World War on the 7th of February 1944. Born in Lismore in northeastern New South Wales on April the 12th, 1921, Gordon Frank Hazer was the son of Norman Charles George Hazer and Alice Una May Hazer of Dunoon. Growing up, Gordon Hazer, nicknamed Hawk, attended school at Bagumble and Lismore High School. Before enlisting in the 2nd Australian Imperial Force, Hazer worked as a butcher with his father. Together they owned the Dunoon Butchery. As well as being a butcher, he was a poultry and pig fancier and trained horses. Gordon Hazer was a keen sportsman. He loved fishing, was a renowned local cricketer and motorcycle enthusiast, and was much loved in his community. A family anecdote recalls that he was often lectured by his mother about the girls he left behind. After enlisting in September 1940 at the age of 19, Hazer was posted to the headquarters of the 8th Division Australian Army Service Corps. In July 1941, Hazer embarked in Sydney for overseas service, arriving in Singapore the following month. Following Japan's entry into the war in December 1941, the 8th Division fought in the defence of the Malayan Peninsula. On the 15th of February 1942, after weeks of fierce fighting, Singapore fell to the Japanese and Hazer became one of 45,000 Australian and British troops captured in the surrender. He spent the first period of his imprisonment at Salarang Barracks in a large prisoner of war camp at Changi in Singapore. While he was a prisoner, Hazer's duty was to be the cook for his unit. After a period at Changi, he was drafted into a large workforce of slave labourers bound for Thailand, where they were employed by the Japanese to construct the Burma-Thailand Railway. Many of the prisoners working on the railway were malnourished and disease was rife. It was in Thailand that Gordon Hazer died of illness, beriberi, on the 7th of February 1944. He was just 22 years old. Gordon Hazer's body is buried in the British and Commonwealth War Cemetery at Kanchanaburi, Thailand. His name is listed on the Roll of Honour on my left, among some 40,000 Australians who died while serving in the Second World War. His photograph is displayed today by the Pool of Reflection. This is but one of the many stories of service and sacrifice told here at the Australian War Memorial. We now remember Private Gordon Frank Hazer, who gave his life for us, for our freedoms and in the hope of a better world.
Please stand for the reading of the Ode and the sounding of the last post.
They shall grow not old, as we that are left grow old. Age shall not weary them, nor the years condemn. At the going down of the sun and in the morning, we will remember them.
We will remember them.
Lest we forget.
Lest we forget. We leave you this evening with the words of the memorial's founder, Charles Bean. Many a man lying out there at Pozières or in the low scrub at Gallipoli, with his poor, tired senses barely working through the fever of his brain, has thought in his last moments, well, it's over. But in Australia, they will be proud of this. Ladies and gentlemen, girls and boys, that concludes the last post ceremony. We thank you for visiting the Australian War Memorial and wish you a very good evening. Thank you.